They appointed elders for them in each church, and with prayer and fasting commended them to the Lord, in whom they had put their faith. Then they traveled through Pisidia and reached Pamphylia. After proclaiming the word at Perga, they went down to Attalia. From there they sailed to Antioch, where they had been commended by the grace of God for the work they had now accomplished. And when they arrived, they called the church together and reported what God had done with them and how he opened a door of faith to the Gentiles. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. I will praise your name forever, my King and my God. I will praise your name forever, my King and my God.
The Lord is kind and full of compassion, slow to anger, abounding in mercy. How good is the Lord to all, compassionate to all his creatures.
I will praise your name forever, my King and my God.
All your works shall thank you, O Lord, and all your faithful ones bless you. They shall speak of the glory of your reign and declare your mighty deeds.
I will praise your name forever, my King and my God.
To make known your might to the children of men and the glorious splendor of your reign. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Your rule endures for all generations.
I will praise your name forever, my King and my God.
A reading from the book of Revelation. Then I, John, saw a new heaven and a new earth. The former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I also saw the holy city, a new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, God's dwelling is with the human race. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will always be with them as their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death or mourning, wailing or pain, for the old order has passed away." The one who sat on the throne said, "Behold, I make all things new." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. When Judas had left them, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and God will glorify him at once. My children, I will only be with you a little while longer. I give you a new commandment: love one another. As I have loved you, so you also should love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Good morning. All right. Welcome to this fifth Sunday of Easter, and thank you, everyone who's visiting. Thank you for being here, and for those who've maybe been away for a while, thanks for coming back. We're glad you're here. So what's our theme today? Love. Love. It's said that love is the soul of everything valuable. The most precious gift in the world, given without love, is worthless. But the cheapest gift in the world, given with love, is priceless. Love. Love is the core of Jesus' ministry. And today, we kind of move back a little bit, because today we're still at the Last Supper. I know that sounds weird, but Jesus had just washed the feet of his disciples, and he was showing them how to care for one another. And it's important to realize that Judas was there. Judas also got his feet washed. Yes, he was not excluded, and he was not condemned. Jesus cared for him, knowing that he would betray him. It is here that Jesus leaves his legacy to us, his legacy of love. Love one another as I have loved you. But the word love it can be confusing, can't it? I would call it's a fuzzy word, fuzzy. The world tells us that love is just a feeling, and that as long as you're being true to your feelings, you're being loved. And when we use the word love, we use it in all different kinds of ways, don't we? It has all kinds of meanings for us. For instance, we love God, we love our spouse, we love our children, we love our friends. But then again, I love wine. I love the Longhorns, or used to. Will again if they win. I love Indian food. Yeah, but you didn't know that. I do. You see, when you use the word love, love has a different meaning. It's the same word in English, but it's different for your spouse than it is for things, hopefully. So, we all know, my friends, that love is not just a feeling. I love this from Pope Francis. He said, "Love is not a vague feeling. It means caring for others to the point of personal sacrifice." The word love has little meaning unless it's surrounded by words like care, devotion, and commitment. You know that love is not felt, love is practiced. It's an act of the will, and it demands action. So, my sisters and brothers, love is the key to being a disciple. Jesus said it today. We're expected to reach out to others and not expect anything in return, because being a Christian is being able to love the way that Jesus loved. It's about learning to accept God's love in your own heart as well. So I want you today to reflect on something. If you could watch a recording of yourself, let's say someone recorded you for a whole day, and you could watch it, and someone else would watch it, would they say that you're a disciple of Christ? Would your actions and your words on any given day show that you have love for one another? Might scare you. To answer this, we need to ask ourselves some very tough questions. In what ways do we fail to be a loving person? Who are the people we love? Who are the people that we don't love? Who are the people that we don't even think of loving? Lots of questions. But to help us, I want to give us a very simple premise today. And you've all heard it. Love is blind, right? You've heard that. Love is blind. Usually when you hear that, you think about, in terms of your spouse or your kids, that you overlook imperfections, you overlook faults, because you love them, right? Most of the time. But there's a second, so that's the first aspect. There's a second part of that love is blind that is more important today. And that is, when it comes to people who are different than you love them. Do you allow prejudice, judgment, bias, and discrimination to block your love? Do you care for people outside your circle of friends and your family? Do you only love people of your own race, religion, social status? That's what we need to ask ourselves today. That is the important and extravagant love that Jesus is asking for. But let's start with the first aspect of love is blind. Overlooking the faults and imperfections of those people that you live with, that you care for, all those close relationships, right? Your spouse, your family, your friends, maybe your coworkers. That is where you have to start. And honestly, it's not that easy sometimes, is it? It's not that easy. Ask my wife. We're all human. We have great qualities. We also have some that ain't so good, don't we? It's easy to lose our patience with the people that we love and only to begin to see imperfections in them and to find fault with them. We know it's true. It happens. But you have to start. You have to have more understanding, more humility, more forgiveness, more patience, more acceptance. You have to overlook those faults and imperfections. When it comes to people close to you, you have to be a fault forgiver and not a fault finder. You have to start at home. That's the first aspect of love is blind. We all do things that irritate each other, but you can't let those things stop your love for one another. So, brings me to the second point. Loving people who are different than you, different nationalities, religious beliefs, political views, social status, whatever it may be. We all tend to only notice what differentiates ourselves, don't we? What is different. We don't notice what unites us. And when you do, you miss a very important fact, that Jesus gave himself for everybody, not just for you, not just for the Jews, not for the pious, not for the wealthy, not for the educated. He gave his life for all people. That includes people who don't look like you. Even Paul, today in our first reading, Paul and Barnabas, listen to them. They had a one heck of a cruise, didn't they? I mean, they're cruising all around the Adriatic and converting people who aren't like them. None of those people were like them. They were Gentiles. They were all races, colors, and creeds. But It's amazing. They were all foreigners. They were all foreigners. But that's what Paul and Barnabas were sent to do by Christ. They were making disciples of all people, not just the people who look like them. They wanted to share the good news with everybody. So we know that loving people who are different than us, is extravagant. It's extreme. And it's going beyond what our social world tells us to do. That love, my friends, is blind. That is truly blind. So as you think about this today, think about those people you're close to and those people you don't know, including the people sitting next to you. How nice would you, if I saw a recording back 10 minutes ago, what would you think? But don't answer that. There's a story, I always have stories, so here's a story I want you to think about. There was an old king who had no family, and he had a large kingdom. So he made a call to all his people, and he said, I want to find someone to inherit my kingdom. The only requirement is you must live a life of love. Easy enough. But there was a young boy who was an orphan, poor, uneducated, had ragged clothing. But he wanted to apply. But he looked at himself and he thought, there's no way. But he took his money, the little bit he had, and he bought some new clothes. So he headed off to the day. And on the way, he came across a beggar who was cold and had horrible clothes. And he felt so sorry for that beggar that he gave him his clothes. The young boy gave away what he thought was the only way was going to impress that king. But he didn't let that deter him. He took the old beggar's clothes and he went on. But when he got to the castle, the people looked at him and thought, who are you? You're uneducated, you're poor, you look like whatever. We're not letting you in. We're letting the nice people in. So all day, the king interviewed people, and he found no one. So at the end, he said, is there no one left? And they said, yeah, there's some kid outside. And he said, well, let him in. So the boy came in, just feeling like, well, I don't have a shot. And he came in and he noticed something very strange. He looked at the king, and what was the king wearing? He was wearing that boy's clothes. That's right. The boy had given his clothes to the king that morning because the king was out looking for someone to take his kingdom. The king came down, embraced the boy, and cried, knowing that this boy was living a life of love. He said to the boy, welcome home, my beloved son. Come and inherit my kingdom. My friends, true love is blind. It is. It's the essence of what Jesus did for us. We are all part of a very special family of God, everyone in this world, and we're called to love God and love one another. In his eyes, we're no different. He doesn't see differences between us. No one is less important. No one's more important. We're all the same. Our God is the God of all people, not your personal God. So, my friends, today, think about this. Will you learn to love as Jesus loves? Become a fault forgiver at home, not a fault finder. Be living a life free of discrimination, of condemnation, of bias, because that's what this world needs. This world is so full of division. We don't need any more, do we? At the end of your life, the only thing that you will be judged on is your love. May we all learn to love one another. May we too, one day, when we meet the King, when we meet God, our Father, will he welcome us? Will he say, welcome home, my beloved children. Inherit the kingdom that I have prepared for you.